It's been just over 2 weeks since the South Coast Challenge. I've spent the last fortnight doing basically nothing, sitting around eating junk food, playing video games. It's been about as exciting as that. This week I decided I'd start a strength program, since running is really something that I probably should avoid at the moment. So Monday morning, plan, ready to go. What do? I went out for a run, 10k, see how I felt. I felt alright. Now, pain's still there a little bit, but yeah, it's okay, fine. Got back from the run, I'm like, would it be healed up by next weekend, I wonder? No, of course it won't. It won't be healed up by next weekend. So, had a shower, had a protein shake, sat down, booked a 200k race for next weekend. It'll be alright. It'll be fine, honestly. Okay, so my last race, I decided to close out my season as I was injured. Though there was one more race this year that I really had hoped to do. It was the SVN 200km race at Saint Peho, a race that I'd had my eye on since the beginning of the year. A few weeks went by after the South Coast Challenge and I decided to try a short run. It was slow but relatively pain-free. This gave me hope in that I may still be able to enter the upcoming 200km race. Now, I booked this race with about 10 days to go. Any real training was out. There wasn't really much that I could do that would have made much of a difference. Been about 3.5 weeks since my 100k race over at South Coast Challenge. I'm out for a shakeout run. I've had a couple of runs since then. Last week I had a couple of runs and decided that my foot should be ready in time, held up, ready for the 200km run back at Dover again. And yeah, feel alright. It feels quite good, to be fair, actually, considering I haven't done much running. Race week started out pretty normal, and then listening to everyone around me telling me how much of a bad idea this was and that entering a 200km race was a little bit cuckoo. Even without an injury, I needed to rest. It was after listening to everyone that I come to my senses and I cancelled the race. They were all right. Everyone lived happily ever after at the end. Okay, that's not quite what happened. This isn't a Disney movie. I don't listen to the wisdom of others. My usual pre-race routine starts a few days before the race, ensuring that I'm well rested, starting to bank as much sleep as I can, carbing up and prepping all my race gear. Race morning I woke up and I immediately come to the conclusion that I genuinely have my full sanity. I am clear and sound of mind most of the time, because I'd woken up realising just how much of a bad idea this actually was. My enthusiasm took a little bit of a dip, but I managed to lift myself back up again and get on with the day. As it would happen, getting on with my morning, I actually started to feel great. An early start, heading to the start line with my fan club, of course. We set off on the race at 8 AM. The weather was great, I had everything planned. Everything was good to go. I was also very excited to see the first run that would take me through the 24-hour period. Seeing the sun go down and rise should be a new experience for me, and the location was perfect. I started out feeling really strong. My pace was consistent and I was running with ease. If you run enough, you will know that you have good days, you have bad days, then you get the great days. And this was feeling somewhere between a good and a great day. This was highly encouraging. Getting through the first 30 kilometres was actually a breeze. 2 laps done, it was all good. 4 kilometres left, golden, man. Right, let's do it. And unfortunately, everything would quickly fall apart on the 3rd lap. You see, I did tell you that this was no Disney movie. At around 35 kilometres, I noticed the pain had returned to my right foot. I continued and it worsened. As I got further into the lap, 40 kilometres came, I started to slow. Getting to the end of the third lap, this took me to 45 kilometres. This was now me mostly walking at this point. The pain was getting progressively worse. After the third lap at the aid station, I took some painkillers and I took 15-minute time out just to try and gather myself to continue. Trying to pull myself together, I dragged myself back to the start line and I set off on the fourth lap of the race. This time I only managed a further 6 kilometres, taking my total to 51 kilometres on the race. Now I had a choice. I could have continued on a waddle for the next 30 hours, unable to run, and would have built up an increase in levels of pain and an extremely high probability of causing further damage to my foot, cancelling out any opportunity to race later in this year or even try early next year. And that was it. I was done. All the planning, everything I put together, it was all cancelled. I was going home. It's a gutting feeling having to walk away from something you've built up for. Getting the taste for the race and going from this is going great to then this is not going so great at all. Now, obviously, I knew it was probably an unwise thing to do entering the race. I knew deep down that it might have been a bad idea, but then I've not always been one to do what I should and more someone who does, well, what I want. And I wanted to enter this race. Thankfully, I don't believe I've done any further damage to my foot. It was a little painful the day after, but it has now eased off. As much as I was disappointed, I'm happy that I made the right choice. Now I know Goggins probably would have gone on, but in that race on that day for me, what was really on the line that warranted me potentially causing permanent damage to my foot? I'm still a novice when it comes to running, and there's still much more I want to do. Live to fight another day is never really a truer saying. Don't ever feel any shame in walking away. I can now continue to heal up and hopefully return to running shortly. I'll hit the bike and so on for the time being, but because I've done no further damage, I can keep training and I'll come back better prepared. So what now? Again, I'm back on it. I've signed up with a new coach. In fact, she actually won the Sambaho challenge. She won the 200 kilometre race that I was running at the weekend. She finished the full 200k in just over 21 hours, which seriously is some going. I've not currently got anything booked in yet. Next year, I'm thinking possibly UTMB. I will be going back for another shot at the 200 kilometre race. But for now, I'm just going to get my head down, keep training, and move forward. If you have any questions that might help you in your training, feel free to drop a message below. I'm no coach, but I'm happy to share my experiences if it helps you. Stay tuned to my channel. I'm going to be touching on some of the cross training that I'm going to be doing in the coming weeks. Being that my foot's a little bit buggered and I don't want to let my fitness drop, I'll be hitting the bike, jumping on Zwift, and then hopefully integrating some runs again. I'll see you on the next one.